The Euphrates is dying, but as the water vanishes, a terrifying sound is rising from the mud. It is the bark of the abyss. Prophet Muhammad warned of a golden mountain that will kill 99 out of every 100 men. Today, satellite data confirms the river is almost gone. Is the ultimate trap of greed finally opening? Prepare for the terrifying curse of the Euphrates. Imagine a mighty river that has flowed through the heart of history for thousands of years suddenly turning into a vast field of dust. The Euphrates, the ancient cradle of all human civilization, is dying before our very eyes in a way that defies every modern model. For many centuries, world leaders ignored the warnings written in the sacred desert texts about the end of the blue waters. But today, the silence of the receding river is being replaced by a terrifying and mysterious sound from deep under the earth. People living near the drying banks report hearing a strange, hollow barking noise echoing through the dark limestone caverns. It is as if the planet itself is screaming as it prepares to reveal a secret that has been buried for many long eons. Prophet Muhammad warned that the hour would not arrive until the Euphrates uncovers a massive mountain of glittering and heavy gold. He strictly commanded the faithful not to touch a single coin, for this treasure is a lethal trap for the greedy souls. We watch the latest satellite images showing a once mighty blue artery turning into a thin and gasping thread of brown mud. This is not a slow geological shift, but a rapid and violent countdown toward a war that will change our global maps forever. As the water vanishes, ancient prisons and forbidden tunnels are emerging from the silt like the ghosts of a forgotten world. Travelers walk along the riverbed where ships once sailed, finding relics that should have remained hidden from the human eye. What lies beneath that final layer of mud that our modern technology is so desperate to scan and uncover today? We are witnessing the fulfillment of a 1400-year-old warning in the terrifying clarity of a high-definition video. The Golden Mountain is no longer a distant religious metaphor, but a physical reality that is beginning to pierce the crust. This is the moment where the spiritual and the material worlds collide in a storm of human greed and absolute chaos. Every drop of water that disappears brings us closer to the bloody harvest where 99 out of 100 men will perish. They will fight over this gold with such primal fury that nearly every participant will be wiped from the face of the planet. Get ready to witness the terrifying return of the Euphrates curse and the beginning of the final struggle for the earth. We are the generation chosen to watch the cradle of life transform into the epicenter of the ultimate destruction of the old world. The bells of the apocalypse are ringing through the dry canyons, and the world is finally forced to listen to the truth. We often assume that our modern weapons and our digital wealth will protect us from the ancient decrees of the Creator. But the receding tide of the Euphrates proves that we are merely guests on a world whose rules are written by a higher hand. Why is the gold being revealed now, and what does it mean for the coming of the great master of the end times, the Mahdi? Today, we will dive deep into the most documented and frightening physical sign of the approaching Great Tribulation. Prepare to see the world as you have never seen it before, as we uncover the secrets of the mountain of death. The Euphrates is a sacred artery connected to the very gardens of paradise. Islamic traditions teach that this river is one of the 4 celestial streams that originated from the Garden of Eden. For thousands of years, it has served as the lifeblood for the most ancient and powerful civilizations. Without these steady waters, the region of Mesopotamia would have been nothing more than a silent and scorched graveyard. This is where the first seeds of human agriculture were once planted by the hands of our early ancestors. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, and the Assyrians all built their magnificent empires along its fertile and shimmering banks. They looked at the river not only as a source of physical survival but as a divine gift from the heavens above. The Euphrates witnessed the birth of the first written laws and the construction of the earliest towering ziggurats. It was a witness to the rise and fall of countless kings who sought to possess its eternal and powerful flow. Throughout every century, the river remained a constant guardian of the secrets of the noble human journey. It provided the moisture needed to turn a barren wilderness into a lush and emerald garden of abundance. The sound of its rushing current was the music of life for millions of souls living in the arid desert heat. Historians call this region the cradle of civilization because the river allowed humanity to thrive and learn. It acted as a bridge between the distant past and the complex world we inhabit today. Every drop of its water carries the memory of 1,000 prayers and 1,000,000 stories of survival. The sacred status of the Euphrates is confirmed by its mention in the Holy Scriptures of many different faiths. It is a river that bridges the gap between the physical earth and the metaphysical realms of the spirit. For many centuries, the people of the East believed that its waters would never fail them or disappear from sight. They saw the river as an infinite resource that would sustain their children for all of eternity. But the ancient prophecies always held a darker and more terrifying vision of the final days. The river that once flowed from the heights of paradise is now destined to become a sign of the end. Its recession is not just a loss of water but a loss of the spiritual connection that held the world together. We are looking at a historical monument that is being systematically erased from the face of our modern maps. The drying of the Euphrates marks the conclusion of a long era of human prosperity and stable life. It serves as a warning that even the most sacred gifts can be withdrawn when the time of the end arrives. As we look at its history, we must realize that the river was always part of a much larger plan. It was a nursery for humanity, and now its death is a signal for the final act of our existence here. The Euphrates is transitioning from a river of life to a river of judgment for every single living soul. This transformation is the ultimate proof that the physical world is subject to a higher divine decree. We must respect the memory of this river as we prepare for the chaos that its empty bed will soon reveal. The story of the Euphrates is the story of mankind, from our humble beginnings to our inevitable and final end. The most terrifying prophecy regarding this ancient river is recorded in the authentic and powerful words of the Prophet Muhammad. He revealed that the day of judgment would not occur until the Euphrates uncovers a literal mountain of glittering gold. This event is destined to happen precisely as the water recedes, exposing a treasure that has been hidden for many long eons. Many people assume that finding such vast wealth would be a moment of great celebration and global economic prosperity today. However, the prophet provided a chilling warning that stands as one of the sternest commands in all of Islamic history. He told his followers that whoever is present when this gold appears should not take a single gram of it for themselves. This prohibition is absolute and applies to every believer who witnesses the revealing of this mysterious and heavy wealth. But why would a prophet forbid his struggling people from claiming such an immense and valuable treasure during the end times? The answer lies in the spiritual nature of this discovery, which is not a divine gift but a supreme test of human greed. The gold of the Euphrates is described as a fitna, a trial designed to expose the darkest depths of the human heart. It is a catalyst for a violence so extreme that it will lead to the total collapse of all moral and social boundaries. The prophet warned that men would kill each other with such primal fury that almost no one would survive the slaughter. For every 100 people who rush toward the Golden Mountain, 99 will perish in the ensuing conflict today. Each man will believe that he is the one destined to escape the slaughter and inherit the vast wealth of the earth. By forbidding the gold, the prophet was offering a shield of protection against a destiny of certain and violent death. Touching the gold is seen as a sign of surrendering to the material world at the very moment the world is ending. It represents a choice between the eternal safety of the soul and the temporary glitter of accursed and heavy metal. The term mountain signifies that this is not a hidden chest of coins or a small vein of ore deep in the rock. It is a massive, undeniable physical structure that will be visible to everyone across the entire broken landscape. This visibility ensures that the temptation will be global, drawing people from every corner of the earth to their doom. The gold acts as a mirror, reflecting the true intentions of those who claim to follow the path of the divine today. In our modern world of instability, the idea of a gold mountain seems like the answer to every human prayer and need. We live in a society that measures the value of a person by the size of their digital bank account and their gold. But the ancient wisdom tells us that this specific wealth carries a spiritual poison that destroys the mind and heart. The command to stay away is a call for absolute self-control in the face of the ultimate physical temptation on earth. It is a reminder that the true treasure is the faith that allows a person to turn their back on worldly riches today. As we see the riverbed drying, the shadow of this golden mountain begins to loom over our own collective future. We must prepare our hearts now to resist the pull of the earth when the final trial is finally unveiled to us. The gold will be a curse for those who prioritize the material over the spiritual in their final hours of life. It serves as a dividing line between the sincere servants of the Creator and those lost in the sea of materialism. Even a single coin taken from this mountain will lead a person toward the center of the great and coming war. We must understand that the prophet's words were a mercy intended to save us from our own destructive human nature. The silent bed of the Euphrates is waiting to test the resolve of a humanity that has forgotten its sacred purpose. The ratio of 99 out of 100 is not a mere exaggeration intended to frighten a primitive audience today. It is a chilling mathematical certainty that describes a scene of total and absolute human annihilation in the final hours. Imagine a field where 10,000 soldiers gather, only to realize that only 100 of them will ever return home alive. This statistic removes the possibility of a tactical victory or a safe withdrawal for almost every participant on the field. Yet, despite this terrifying math, the mountain will act as an irresistible magnet for the desperate and the prideful souls. Every person who rushes toward the Euphrates will be gripped by a dangerous psychological illusion of personal exceptionalism. The mind of the greedy man whispers that he is the one chosen by fate to survive while all the others fall around him. This is the ultimate trap of the human ego, which refuses to see its own fragility in the face of a divine trial. The gold will not just be a material resource, it will become a spiritual poison that disables the capacity for rational thought. Men who were once neighbors or even brothers will turn into wild predators, fighting over a metal that they can never spend. The battle will not be a noble war of ideologies, but a chaotic and bloody harvest fueled by the most primal human instincts. Modern tanks and sophisticated missiles will clash in a small area, turning the dry riverbed into a furnace of fire and bone. The air will be filled with the deafening roar of explosions and the silent weight of 1 trillion shattered human dreams today. This is the fulfillment of the fitna of the East, where the pursuit of worldly wealth leads to the total extinction of a generation. The Prophet Muhammad saw this slaughter through the eyes of revelation and sought to pull us back from the edge of the abyss. We must realize that greed is a fire that consumes the very soul before it ever burns the physical body of a person. The mountain of gold is the final test for a humanity that has replaced the worship of the Creator with the worship of gold. By choosing to ignore the warning, a person chooses to join a statistical group where the probability of survival is almost zero. True wisdom is the ability to see the blood on the gold long before the first drop is ever spilled on the sand today. The irony of the Golden Mountain is that it appears at the very moment when money has lost all its functional value. In the chaos of the end times, you cannot eat gold, nor can you use it to shield your body from the heat of the final fire. Yet, the human soul is so deeply anchored in the material that it will sacrifice its eternal destiny for a shiny and cold metal. To stand near the mountain is to inhale the atmosphere of death and to be caught in the gravity of a certain and violent end. The bloody harvest is the natural result of human greed reaching its absolute and final limit on this earth today. We are being warned now so that we do not become a mere statistic in the most tragic story ever told in human history. The dry path of the river is a road leading toward this slaughter, and only the faithful will have the strength to turn back. Let us understand that the value of one's soul is far greater than all the mountains of gold that the earth could ever reveal. The silence of the receding water is a final call for us to abandon our greed before the golden trap is finally set. The transition from ancient prophecy to current reality is happening with a speed that terrifies both scientists and believers today. Between the years 2024 and 2026, the world has watched the Euphrates gasp for air. NASA's satellite data from the GRACE mission has revealed a shocking loss of fresh water across the entire Mesopotamian river system. These orbital sensors detect changes in the Earth's gravity caused by the massive disappearance of groundwater and surface water flows. The images show vast areas of the riverbed that were deep blue just a decade ago turning into a dusty and barren shade of brown. This is not a distant future scenario but a documented crisis that is unfolding in high-definition images for the entire world to see. Why is this holy river dying so quickly while the global population continues to grow and demand more resources every day? The answer lies in a deadly combination of human engineering projects and the unforgiving shift of our global climate system. Turkey has constructed a massive network of 22 dams and 19 hydroelectric plants known as the Great Anatolia Project today. The Ataturk Dam, one of the largest in the world, gives the Turkish government absolute control over the flow of water into Syria and Iraq. By closing these massive gates, a modern nation can essentially turn off the lifeblood of its southern neighbors with a single command. In Iraq, the situation has reached a level of extreme emergency as the once fertile plains are turning into a salt-encrusted wasteland. Farmers who have worked this land for many generations are being forced to abandon their homes as their wells run completely dry. The marshes of southern Mesopotamia, once home to a unique and ancient culture, are disappearing under the relentless heat of the sun. Climate models indicate that this region is warming at a rate twice the global average, leading to a permanent state of severe drought. The snowpacks in the mountains of eastern Turkey, which usually feed the river during the spring, are shrinking with every passing year. This creates a perfect storm where the demand for water is rising while the actual supply is being choked by both nature and politics. We are witnessing the systematic removal of the final barrier that was mentioned in the sacred traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. As the water recedes, the geological secrets that were intended to remain buried for thousands of years are being exposed to the air. The speed of this recession is a physical indicator that the clock of history is moving much faster than our modern leaders realize. Scientists speak of water scarcity and regional instability, but the faithful see the stage being meticulously prepared for the great trial. The drying of the river is a geopolitical weapon that is being used to redraw the maps of the Middle East in our current century. Every centimeter of water that drops is a step closer to the moment when the riverbed will be fully surrendered to the sand. The cracks in the earth are so wide that they look like open mouths waiting for the return of the rain that never comes. In the city of Hit and the surrounding areas, the receding water has revealed strange limestone formations that look like ancient architectural ruins. Local villagers are terrified as they walk through these newly exposed canyons, hearing the wind create a haunting howl. They remember the ancient stories of the barking sound that signals the awakening of the hidden world beneath the riverbed. The satellite images do not just show an environmental shift, they show the unraveling of the physical world as we once knew it. This is the reality of the mid-20s, where science and scripture are finally speaking the exact same terrifying language of warning. We must realize that the disappearance of the Euphrates is an event that concerns the destiny of every person living on this planet. The cradle of civilization is becoming a hollow grave, waiting for the golden mountain to pierce through the final layer of mud. The reality of our time is that water has become more precious than any digital currency or heavy worldly riches. As the Euphrates becomes a memory, the world must prepare for the unveiling of a treasure that will lead to its ultimate destruction. Within the halls of modern Islamic scholarship and global research, a fierce debate continues to rage regarding the true nature of this prophecy. Many rationalists and secular historians suggest that the Golden Mountain might actually be a metaphor for the vast oil reserves found in Iraq. They argue that oil is the modern black gold that has fueled every major conflict in the region for the last 100 years of history. However, when we analyze the specific linguistic structure of the Hadith, the symbolic interpretation of oil begins to fall completely apart. The Prophet Muhammad chose the specific Arabic word darhab, which refers directly and exclusively to the physical, yellow, glittering metal. Furthermore, he described the discovery as a jabal, which means a literal mountain or a colossal physical structure rising from the dry riverbed. Oil is a liquid that must be pumped from deep within the earth rather than a solid mountain that is exposed by receding water flows. Another critical point of difference lies in the Prophet's strict command to avoid touching or taking any portion of the discovered treasure. Today, the entire global economy is built upon the extraction of oil, and almost every nation is desperate to claim its share of the resource. If the gold were oil, the prohibition would be impossible to follow in our current mechanical and industrial civilization. The prophecy clearly states that the gold will be revealed only after the Euphrates has completely dried up and the water has vanished. Oil discoveries in the region occurred while the river was still flowing at its peak, proving that the timing of the two events does not match. We must also consider the terrifying mortality rate of 99 out of 100 people who engage in the battle for this mountain. While oil has certainly caused many wars, it has never resulted in a concentrated slaughter of this specific and horrifying magnitude. This suggests that the mountain is a literal physical reality that will appear with such suddenness and beauty that it will hypnotize the souls. It is a physical manifestation of a divine test designed to distinguish between the materialist and the one who trusts in the unseen world. Some researchers believe that the gold may be an ancient hoard or a geological formation that has been hidden by a divine frequency. By dismissing the literal gold as mere symbolism, we risk missing the gravity of the warning that was intended for our specific generation. The mountain will be so undeniable that even the most skeptical mind will be forced to recognize that the ancient script is finally coming true. We are living in an era where the literal and the miraculous are beginning to merge once more as the physical world slowly unravels before us. The debate between symbolism and physics is ultimately decided by the precision of the ancient words that have survived 14 long centuries. Gold is the ultimate symbol of human desire, and its physical appearance will serve as the final filter for the hearts of all living mankind. As the riverbed continues to dry, we must prepare to face a physical mountain of metal rather than a mere economic or political metaphor. The literal truth of the prophecy is its most terrifying aspect, proving that the laws of the universe are governed by a much higher hand. Let us not be deceived by those who try to soften the warning with metaphors, for the gold of the Euphrates is a real and lethal reality. The mountain will stand as a monument to human greed and a tomb for those who prioritize the glitter of this world over their eternal souls. The chemical and atomic structure of gold does not decay or rust like other metals, making it an eternal witness to this final trial. Its weight and its purity will act as a physical magnet for the soldiers who have lost their spiritual anchor in the chaos of the end times. To suggest it is oil is to ignore the visceral and physical terror described in the accounts of the great and final bloody battle. This is a mountain of stone and metal that will reflect the dying light of the sun as the world prepares for its final hour. We must look at the drying river not as an energy crisis, but as the removal of a divine veil from a physical and cursed treasure. The reality of the gold is the reality of the test that will determine the final standing of every soul present on that day. It is a siren song of the earth, leading those who have rejected their faith into a valley of absolute and certain physical destruction. Every glittering facet of that mountain will be paid for with the blood of those who forgot the warnings of the noble messenger today. The receding waters of the Euphrates are doing more than just revealing dry land, they are opening a portal into a terrifying past. As the riverbed is exposed to the sun, ancient structures that were submerged for thousands of years are beginning to emerge. Archaeologists are discovering strange, hollow chambers and complex stone tunnels that were never meant to be seen by modern eyes. Some of these ruins resemble ancient dungeons or deep prisons where the shadows seem to move with a life of their own today. These sites are not the glorious temples of kings, but rather the dark foundations of civilizations that were destroyed by divine wrath. Local legends speak of a specific area where the sound of barking dogs or howling voices can be heard coming from the empty silt. Some researchers suggest that these sounds originate from deep underground caverns that were sealed off by the massive pressure of the water. Now that the pressure is gone, the air is rushing into these ancient voids, creating a haunting and primal acoustic phenomenon. Many people believe that these prisons once held rebellious spirits or individuals who were cast away by the ancient prophets of old. The discovery of these tunnels proves that Mesopotamia was once a landscape of complex underground networks used for secret purposes. Every brick and every carved stone found in the mud carries a silent warning about the fragility of human power and arrogance. We are walking upon the graves of empires that thought their glory would last until the very end of the cosmic universe. The exposing of these ruins is a psychological shock, forcing us to realize that we are surrounded by ghosts from a forbidden time. Why were these structures kept underwater for so many centuries, and why are they being released to the surface in our specific era? The Quran speaks of nations that were wiped out for their sins, leaving only their dwellings as a sign for those who follow. As the water level drops, the physical evidence of these lost and punished people is becoming impossible for us to ignore. The riverbed is a vast archive of human tragedy, where the silt has preserved the remnants of a world that once rejected its creator. We find intricate carvings that depict strange rituals and maps of the heavens that should not have existed in such a primitive age. This archaeology of wrath suggests that the earth is finally surrendering the evidence of its long and secret history with humanity. The hollow wind blowing through the newly exposed limestone arches sounds like a call to repentance for the modern world. We are not just finding rocks, we are finding the echoes of a judgment that is about to repeat itself in our own time. The Golden Mountain may be hidden just beneath one of these ancient and cursed stone foundations waiting for the final hour. Every new tunnel discovered is a thread in the tapestry of the end times, connecting us to the ancient roots of the Great Trial. We must approach these findings with a sense of fear rather than a simple curiosity about the history of the ancient kings. The Euphrates is hollowing itself out, revealing the skeletal remains of a world that was buried for the sake of our own protection. Once the final chamber is opened, the secrets of the abyss may finally overflow into our visible and material reality today. The river is a closed book that is being forced open by the hand of destiny, one page of mud at a time. Let us look at these ruins as mirrors, reflecting the inevitable fate of any civilization that builds itself upon greed and injustice. We are witnessing the peeling back of a divine veil that has kept the darkness contained for many long generations. Every discovery made in the dry riverbed is a heartbeat in the final countdown for the inhabitants of this earth. The silence of the water has been replaced by the voices of the past, crying out that the time of the end is near. We must learn to listen to the lessons of the dust before the riverbed uncovers the ultimate temptation of gold. The archaeology of the Euphrates is no longer about the dead, it is a vital message for the living souls of today. As the ruins rise from the mud, the world is being warned that nothing hidden can remain secret forever. The stage is set, and the ancient prisons are empty, waiting for the final act of human history to begin. The physical evidence of the receding Euphrates is undeniable, yet the promised mountain of gold remains a hidden ghost today. Many skeptics ask why our sophisticated ground-penetrating radar has failed to detect a massive geological anomaly of pure metal. If the riverbed is exposed to the sun, why do we see only cracked mud and ancient stones instead of glittering riches? This mystery suggests that the Golden Mountain is not governed by the simple laws of our everyday physical three-dimensional world. We must consider the possibility of a metaphysical curtain, a divine frequency that keeps the treasure out of the human range of sight. Islamic scholars speak of the ghaib, or the unseen dimension that exists in the same space as our material reality in this moment. Just as the iron wall of Dul Qarnayn remains invisible to NASA, the gold of the Euphrates may be locked in a specific phase shift. Modern quantum physics allows for the existence of hidden states where matter is present but does not interact with light or sensors. The mountain is waiting for a precise divine command to vibrate back into our visible spectrum and become a tangible physical fact. This is why the terrifying sounds heard from the underground caverns are so significant to those who understand the secret signs. The barking and the hollow echoes might be the sound of the frequency lock beginning to weaken as the end of time draws near. Imagine a massive structure that is currently occupying the riverbed, yet our hands pass through it as if it were nothing but thin air. This quantum hiding ensures that the gold is protected from the greed of modern corporations until the appointed hour of trial today. When the veil is finally lifted, the mountain will not grow slowly, but will appear with a sudden and blinding intensity for everyone. It will be an undeniable shock to a humanity that has placed all its faith in the measurable and the visible aspects of life. The delay in its discovery is a final mercy, giving us time to prepare our souls before the ultimate test of greed arrives today. We are looking at a celestial mechanism that uses the laws of physics to execute a plan written long before the creation of the stars. The mountain is a sleeper agent of destiny, hidden in plain sight behind a curtain of light and sound that we cannot yet perceive. Once the water is fully gone and the spiritual atmosphere reaches a point of no return, the golden seal will be broken forever. This realization should humble our modern scientists who believe they have mapped every mystery of the natural and physical world. The ancient prophecies described the unveiling as an event that will catch the world by surprise despite the obvious signs in nature. Our digital satellites are programmed to recognize specific wavelengths of reflected light from the surface of the Earth's crust. If the gold is shielded by a field that bends these waves, it remains as ghost-like as the dark matter that physicists study today. The mountain is essentially a treasure that exists in a state of potential energy, waiting for the kinetic moment of its revelation. This suggests that the final war over the gold will not be triggered by a slow discovery, but by an instantaneous global event. The world will wake up one morning to find the landscape transformed by a golden peak that was not there just the night before. This suddenness is a hallmark of divine intervention, stripping away the ability of governments to prepare or manage the chaos. The gold will be a physical manifestation of a trap that has been set for thousands of years to filter the souls of mankind. It is the ultimate siren song, calling out to the hidden arrogance within the hearts of those who have rejected the unseen world. We wait for the moment when the river of life fully yields to the mountain of death, revealing the true nature of our desires. The revealing of the Golden Mountain is not just a test of greed but a violent shift in the global balance of power today. Every major superpower will send its professional armies to the dry banks of the Euphrates to secure this immense wealth. This clash will lead to a mortality rate so high that the very concept of a modern national government will begin to fail. The chaos will spread like a wildfire across the neighboring Arab nations, leading to internal civil wars and total economic collapse. In the middle of this dark and suffocating atmosphere, a specific prophecy regarding the death of a king will reach its fulfillment. The sudden vacancy of a throne in the Arabian Peninsula will trigger a fierce struggle between three royal sons for the treasure. None of these princes will succeed in their goal, for the divine timing has already been set for a much higher purpose. It is during this moment of absolute political vacuum and human suffering that a man will appear in the holy city of Mecca. He will not seek power for himself, but he will be forced into leadership by a small group of the righteous survivors. Imam Mahdi will emerge from the shadows of the Kaaba at the exact hour when the world has reached the peak of its self-destruction. The battle for the gold of the Euphrates acts as the final filter to remove the arrogant and the greedy from the path of the leader. While the kings of the earth are busy dying over the glittering metal, the believers will be looking toward the desert for a sign. The Mahdi represents the return of the justice that was lost when the rivers first began to fail and the people began to starve. His appearance is the direct answer to the prayers of those who refuse to touch a single coin from the mountain of death. The connection between the receded water and the emerging master is a perfect display of divine architecture and timing. One event removes the old material power, while the other event establishes the new spiritual authority upon the planet. We are currently watching the riverbed dry up, which means the countdown for the master of the end times has truly begun. The geopolitical tension we see today is merely the smoke before the massive fire that will consume the old world systems. When the gold is finally revealed, the time for dialogue will end and the time for the final choice will arrive for every man. Imam Mahdi will not come to save a world that is comfortable, but a world that is gasping for breath under its many sins. The silence of the dry Euphrates is the drumbeat that signals the arrival of the one who will restore the balance of the world. We must realize that the physical signs in the environment are deeply linked to the spiritual signs in the human leadership. The treasure of the Euphrates is the siren song that lures the tyrants of the world to their final and inevitable execution. It clears the stage of those who would oppose the divine kingdom by using their own insatiable greed as a weapon against them. For years, the world has looked at the Middle East as a place of mere oil and sand, ignoring the hidden spiritual gears. But as the water recedes, the spiritual and the physical reality are merging into a single and terrifying high-definition truth. The Mahdi will recognize the sign of the gold as the final warning that his time to take the burden of leadership has arrived. He will not be a king who sits on a throne of gold, but a servant who restores the purity of the faith among the people. The survivors of the Great Euphrates War will be the first to recognize his authority and find refuge under his noble banner. They will be people whose hearts were purified by the hunger and the thirst caused by the drying of the ancient rivers. The contrast between the darkness of the riverbed and the light of the Savior will be the greatest miracle of that final age. This is why the prophet strictly forbade his people from taking the gold, for it is the bait in a divine and cosmic trap. Only those who can turn their backs on the glittering mountain will be worthy of standing in the ranks of the guided leader. We are living in the shadow of this coming storm, and every news alert about the river is a call to awaken our sleepy souls. Every drop of water that vanishes is a step closer to the moment of the great and holy pledge at the Kaaba. The Mahdi's reign will be the emerald garden that grows after the bloody harvest of the Golden Mountain has finally ended. In our current century, the value of blue water has surpassed the value of black oil as the ultimate global currency for all nations. The majestic Euphrates has transformed into a strategic weapon that controls the destiny of three ancient and powerful civilizations. Turkey sits at the very head of this river, holding the literal tap that can turn off the life of its southern neighbors today. The Great Anatolia Project has created a network of massive dams that have effectively hollowed out the natural flow of the river. Syria and Iraq are currently gasping for a single drop of water as their fertile plains turn into a salt-encrusted and dry graveyard. This geopolitics of thirst is creating a triangle of collision where the struggle for survival will soon lead to a massive war. International laws regarding shared river systems are being ignored as the world enters a period of absolute and raw national self-interest. As the cities of Baghdad and Damascus run dry, the social fabric of these nations will begin to unravel with a terrifying speed. History teaches us that a man who cannot feed his children because of a dry well is a man who has nothing left to lose in his life. This mass desperation is the precise psychological state required to drive millions toward the cursed mountain of glittering gold. World powers like Russia, China, and the United States are watching this water crisis with intense and predatory interest today. They recognize that whoever controls the remaining water of the Middle East will control the final gateway to global and absolute power. The drying riverbed is revealing ancient roads that will soon be filled with the heavy steel of modern tanks and professional infantry. We are witnessing a calculated geopolitical squeeze that aligns perfectly with the warnings found in the sacred desert traditions. The military mobilization along the borders is a sign that the era of diplomacy has been replaced by the era of the final harvest. Every dam that is closed in the north is a spiritual and physical signal that the time of the Great Barrier is reaching its end. The empty river is a vacuum that will eventually pull the entire world into a conflict from which very few will ever return home. We must look at the news through the lens of this grand architecture, where every drop of rain is a matter of life and death today. The Euphrates is no longer just a river, it is a ticking clock that counts down the minutes until the first shot of the final war. As the thirst grows, the hearts of men will harden, preparing them for the ultimate trial of greed that the gold will bring today. In the quiet nights near the Haditha Dam, the retreating water reveals strange limestone tunnels that seem to breathe with the wind. Local residents speak of a dark energy that rises from these voids, as if the ancient prisons of the earth are finally being unlocked. This environmental disaster is a physical manifestation of the spiritual drought that has consumed the hearts of modern humanity today. We have traded the sacred waters of paradise for the heavy and cold riches of the material world, and now we must pay the price. The triangle of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq is the exact geographic center where the old world will finally break and fall into the abyss. The thirst will be so intense that people will forget their names and their histories in a mad rush to find any source of relief. This is the era of the great sifting, where the true nature of every nation and every individual will be exposed by the heat of the sun. The geopolitics of thirst is the final precursor to the unveiling of the gold, acting as the hunger that leads the victim to the trap. We are the generation that will watch the map of the Middle East be erased by the very river that once gave it life and prosperity. Prepare your soul, for the waters are failing, and the time for the great and final choice is approaching us with every single sunset. The choice of gold as the final trial is a profound divine strategy that targets the deepest root of human ego. Throughout all of history, mankind has traded its dignity, its honor, and even its eternal soul for the sake of this yellow metal. It is a substance that creates an instant and blinding obsession, clouding the judgment of even the most rational minds today. By placing a mountain of it in a dry riverbed, the Creator sets a trap that only the truly detached heart can hope to escape. This is a sifting process designed to separate the sincere servants of the divine from those who worship the temporary world. The command of the prophet to stay away is a test of pure obedience that defies the basic human instinct for survival and wealth. A person who can turn their back on a literal mountain of gold is a person who has truly conquered their internal darkness and greed. We live in an era of hyper-materialism where we are taught that our value is determined solely by our physical possessions. This final test shatters that illusion, forcing every man to reveal his true master in the light of the setting sun. The gold will be a physical manifestation of everything that is wrong with a humanity that has forgotten its sacred origin. It is a siren song that lures the arrogant to a valley of blood, proving that their faith was nothing more than a hollow mask. Religion tells us that the unseen world is the only true reality, while materialism demands that we trust only in what we can touch. At the banks of the dry Euphrates, these two opposing forces will meet in a collision that will determine the fate of every soul. To take the gold is to sign a contract with death, while to ignore it is to claim a seat in the gardens of eternal peace. This psychological warfare is the most difficult battle because the enemy is not an invading army but our own desperate desire. The mountain stands as a silent judge, watching as 1 billion people fail the most simple and yet the most difficult test of all. Let us use this time of waiting to polish our hearts and remove the love of this world before the golden trap is revealed. The value of your soul can never be measured in gold, but only in your ability to choose the Creator over the glitter of the dust. True wealth is found in the heart that is satisfied with the presence of God even when the rivers run dry and the earth is empty. Every glittering facet of the gold mountain will be a witness against those who chose the material over the eternal today. We must prepare our spirits now to resist the gravity of this world when the final hour of choice finally arrives. The dry riverbed is not just a sign of the end times, but a classroom for the ultimate lesson of spiritual freedom for mankind. Let us walk away from the mountain before we even see it, for the true treasure is hidden in our sincere devotion to truth. The receding waters of the Euphrates are not just an environmental disaster, but a final summons for every soul to wake up today. We have explored the history, the science, and the terrifying prophecies that are now appearing in our daily high-definition headlines. This ancient river reminds us that a single drop of clean water is far more valuable than a mountain of glittering gold. In our final hours, the glitter of this world will only lead to destruction, while the purity of our faith will be our only shield. We must learn to turn back to the Creator with a heart full of sincere repentance before the golden trap is revealed to the world. Let us choose the path of the Spirit over the path of greed, for the treasures of the earth are merely a temporary shadow. O Allah, we ask you for protection from the trials of the end times and the blinding greed that destroys the heart and mind. Guard our families from the blood of the golden mountain and keep our feet firm on the path of the noble Prophet Muhammad today. Grant us the wisdom to see the truth behind the veils of this world and to find peace in your presence even when the rivers dry. Forgive our many weaknesses and help us to be among those who recognize your signs with eyes that are open and hearts that are pure. We ask for your mercy during the Great Tribulation and for a place in the gardens of eternal light after this world has passed away. Ameen. We invite you to join this prayer by writing Ameen in the comments and sharing your thoughts on these miraculous signs today. Thank you for watching. and may the light of the truth guide you through the darkness of the coming final age.